You tell yourself you're going to be good today. You pack the lunch, you skip the snacks, you power through the whole day, and then 8 p.m. hits, and the kids are finally quiet. The house feels a little bit better, and suddenly you're in the pantry with a glass of wine, and you're thinking, what's wrong with me? Why do I always do this? And listen, I want you to hear me loud and clear. You're not sabotaging yourself. You're exhausted and your hormones are driving the bus right now. So in today's episode, we're going to be pulling back the curtain on what's actually behind that 8 p.m. crash, because this is not about discipline. It's about strategy. And I'm going to show you what's going on inside of your body and the one shift that you can make today to start breaking that cycle. Welcome to Real Food, Real Energy, Real Life, the podcast that helps you eat well, feel strong, and have more energy without stress, guilt, or restriction. Just simple, real-life strategies that actually work for busy moms. I'm Nikki Cheek, a health coach, busy mom of 3, and former overthinker when it comes to food and fitness. For years, I was stuck in that halfway mindset, eating healthy-ish, trying to make better choices, Googling all the nutrition advice, but still feeling exhausted and frustrated. Until I finally realized I wasn't doing the wrong things, I just didn't have a strategy that actually worked for real life. That's what this podcast is all about. We're cutting through the confusion, ditching the all or nothing thinking, and learning how to fuel our bodies in a way that actually feels good. So, if you're ready for practical nutrition tips, a simple meal strategy, and a fresh take on food that makes life easier, not harder, you're in the right place, friend. So let's get into it. Hey there, welcome back to Real Food, Real Energy, Real Life. I'm Nikki Cheek, a certified health coach, a faster weight coach, and a midlife mom of 3 who's learned how to stop trying to do everything perfectly and start doing what actually works. This podcast today is for the moms who are just in the thick of it, the ones with the half-eaten snacks on the counter and the group texts blowing up about practice times and hormones doing the absolute craziest things to your body. You've tried the plans, you've done the clean eating, and you've even found yourself back in the kitchen every single night, and you're like, why can I not just stick to this? And if that's you, I want you to know you're not alone. And today we're going to talk about why this pattern has nothing to do with willpower and what you're going to do instead. So let me bring you back to a couple of years ago. I was standing in the kitchen. It was in the evening. The dishwasher was already running. My husband was sitting on the couch and I had a half empty glass of wine in one hand and some crackers in the other. And honestly, I really wasn't tired. I was just done making decisions and I wanted to take the edge off. And if that's you, I know this sounds familiar, right? And then, of course, the next morning I wake up and I'm bloated and I'm puffy and just mad at myself because I'm like, why do I keep doing this? I was really good all day. I ate the salads. I had the chicken. I didn't go crazy with sugar. And then that night, I just blow it, right? And for the longest time, I truly believed it was more like a discipline thing, right? Like I just really needed to try harder, right? And like hold back and just not do the things that I knew I shouldn't be doing. And when I really started learning about what actually happens in hormones in midlife, it really hit me because my body was waving this like white flag at me and I wasn't listening. Because that glass of wine and those carbs, that was my nervous system. And it was the last effort to just try and find some calm. And once I started understanding that, I stopped blaming myself and I started really going with what's working with my body instead of working against my body. So look, we've all been told this story. If we just had more discipline, you wouldn't crash at night. And if you really wanted it bad enough, you would just skip the snacks, skip the wine, all those things. And yeah, that's great, right? You might be disciplined. You might have followed some plans and maybe you've checked a few boxes and maybe it still didn't stick with you, right? But I want you to think about some things that maybe you've heard and maybe you haven't. So your cortisol has been running high all day. And now it's crashing. And your blood sugar's on that roller coaster that we've talked about in other previous episodes, right? And you're going up and down, and maybe you've skipped some meals or you're stress eating scraps. And so that takes your blood sugar up and down. It sends your cortisol all over the place. And your estrogen's also shifting, right? When you're a midlife mom, your estrogen is changing. And so your nervous system is more wired than ever. And when your body reaches for the pantry night, you're not just like looking for, like, you're not like, oh, I'm just not good enough, but it's really about relief. Like, you're like, oh, my nervous system says I need this, so I'm going to go do that, because you're depleted and your body is doing what it can to feel good again, to feel safe. And doesn't mean anything bad. It just means that you're stuck. It means that, in the past, like, you don't really have, maybe it worked in the past, right? But now your body just isn't reacting well, and you don't have a plan that ignores what your body really needs. So if you're nodding along and you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's totally me, then I want you to grab my Break Free from Dieting guide. But just know this, it's not a meal plan. It's not a list of like good and bad foods. It gives you some things and some ways and strategies that I teach inside my 6-week reset. And it's designed for midlife moms with crazy schedules, shifting hormones, and honestly, no time for like a ton of quick fixes. Okay. Because that's not what it is. You're going to learn like what to eat during the day, how to avoid that crash, how to build meals that support your energy and your hormones, and what to do when, your plan just goes sideways, because we're moms, right? And that happens pretty often. So head to the link in the show notes, or you can DM me at Nikki Cheek Wellness on Instagram. If you send Break Free, I will send it over to you. So I want you to think about this. I want you to walk through your day. So when you wake up in the morning, you're likely already tired because your sleep sucked again, right? Like, you didn't sleep well, but you hit the ground running. You're up, you're packing lunches, you're answering texts, right? You're juggling like, okay, what do I need to prep for work, for my meetings today? Or you're just trying to remember if that thing at school that you have to be at is today or tomorrow. And maybe you grab some coffee, maybe you skip breakfast, your lunch is just some random thing that's thrown together. Maybe it's whatever you can find between appointments or while you're standing at the counter. And then 3 p.m. comes, right? Your kids come home from school and you start to feel it, and you get drained, you get annoyed, your brain is foggy. You're like, I can't focus right now. And you're craving something. Honestly, you're craving anything, but you still have practice drop-offs, and then you got to start making dinner and a million decisions to make. Maybe you need to get gas and you have to leave extra early so that you don't forget that, right? So by the time you finally get home at 8 p.m., you're standing alone in the kitchen, right? Your kids might be showering. Maybe they've had 2 dinners and you haven't had any, because that has happened in my house before, where my kids will eat at 4 o'clock and then maybe they're, coming back to eat again at 8 o'clock because they've had practice. But you're standing there and you're like, that's when the chocolate chips come out. And you're like, man, I blew it, right? But your body was set up to crash because of 3 things that were happening underneath the surface based on the way that your day went. So first, your cortisol is running the show. And we've talked a little bit about cortisol before, but it's not just a stress hormone, right? It also helps set the rhythm of your day. And it's supposed to wake you up in the morning and then kind of slowly taper down by the evening. But when we are moms and we're under constant pressure all day, that cortisol just stays high until it doesn't. And that 3 p.m. crash, that's your cortisol just saying, okay, I'm done, right? It's just totally tanked. And when that happens, it means that your body is going to crave anything to get your balance back. So sugar, fast carbs, like anything that's just going to be like, okay, I got to get that back up, right? And this isn't because you're being bad, but it's because your nervous system is just, as my kids would say, your nervous system is cooked, right? You're just done. So that's the first thing. Your cortisol is just a mess. Okay. So the second thing then is that your blood sugar is all over the place. So if you go too long without food, or you skip your protein, or you're like saving calories, which don't even get me started on that, for dinner, your blood sugar is going to dip. Okay. And you remember that Snickers commercial where you're like, it's like the hangry commercial where they give you a Snickers and you're all of a sudden better again, right? Well, that's what happens when your blood sugar dips, right? You get hangry. And when your blood sugar dips, your cortisol also spikes, and that cycle just keeps spinning. So that's why even if you ate light and clean all day, you still end up crashing at night, because your body doesn't know like what's good, what's bad, like where it should be. And it didn't get the fast fuel, or it didn't get the real fuel it needed. So it's looking for that fast fuel that you're getting later at night. And then the third thing that's really kind of going on beneath all of this is the things that no one talks about. And it's becoming more prevalent now, but it's like your hormones are shifting, okay? And your estrogen affects your serotonin. So your mood and your cravings, and honestly, even your ability to just feel calm, is impacted. And that progesterone that's going to help you feel grounded, it starts to dip in midlife. And that melatonin that helps you sleep, that's natural, right? Melatonin is a natural thing. It gets blocked when your cortisol is staying up too high and for too long. And so all of this to say, your mood then gets off. You're wired, but you're tired. You just can't sleep and you're craving anything that is just going to help that. Okay. So that's why every plan that you followed in the past stopped working, because it doesn't take these things into account. And this is why when you start to eat in a way that fuels your body, gives your body the right fuel that it needs, you don't find that 3 p.m. crash anymore. And so I want you to think about something that you can do on a daily basis that is going to help change that evening trap. And in the afternoon, you can make that shift. So the shift is we are going to cut the crash before it starts. Okay. And honestly, the easiest way to do that is to make sure that you're having a strategic snack. Maybe it's at 3 o'clock when you start to feel that. Maybe it's a little bit earlier, but it's going to be a strategic snack with protein and fat, and it's going to help you steady your blood sugar, calm your nervous system, and then really just stop that spiral in the evening. It's going to stop it before it starts. So it works because your body is getting what it needs, right? It's getting the protein, it's getting some fat because that's going to help slow down digestion, and it's going to keep that blood sugar more stable and those hunger cues balanced, okay? And so this is what it could look like. And I don't want you to think okay, I got to go search Pinterest for a ton of snacks because listen, we don't have a ton of time for all of that. But it could be something like a protein bar, right? I don't recommend these often, but if you're out running errands, it could be that, a protein bar, and maybe a handful of cashews, okay? It could be some turkey roll-ups and some guacamole, right? You're getting your protein, some protein, and you're getting the guacamole with the healthy fats. It could be some Greek yogurt with some nut butter swirled in. It could be, and maybe even a scoop of protein powder, right? That would be really good. So it could be some hard-boiled eggs and maybe a slice of cheese. So there's all sorts of things you can do to make sure that you're having a good snack that's not going to take out your hunger for dinner, but it's just going to help keep that blood sugar neutral, right? And not keep that spike going. So I want you to kind of pick one, and maybe it's something that you pack for the whole week. Maybe you make 5 of them. One of my favorite snacks in the afternoon is honestly I make a protein coffee, and it's actually a protein powder or a protein powder flavored coffee, and I will add some sort of healthy fat on the side. So I'll have that iced latte protein coffee in the afternoon with a handful of nuts, or maybe it's some berries with some almond butter on it. But I want you to kind of prep it, right? Think about the things that you can do, and so that you're not always on the go, or that you have it ready when you're on the go. So put it in your bag. Maybe you have a fridge. Maybe if you're at the office, maybe you take 5 of them and keep them at the office, and really make sure that you eat it. Okay. Before you get home from work, before you start dinner, and before the craziness of the evening starts. Because I know for me, when my kids walk in the door around 3 o'clock, it's okay, now everything changes and I have to put a different hat on. And if I'm not present and my body's not fueled the right way, then I start to get that cranky feeling. And I don't want that when my kids get home. So look, I know what it's like to feel like you're doing everything right all day. And then by the evening, you're just done and you're like, well, there goes that day. But if you don't follow some of these things and use that nutrition, then that's not going to work. So in the Break Free from Dieting Guide, it gives you some of the things that actually do work in real life, right? It's built around the simple moves like that 3 p.m. protein and fat strategy, right? And it's not just fluff, because it's the same reset that I use when I work with clients inside my 6-week reset. And it's how they start seeing results without tracking every bite and starting over every Monday, okay? So if you're ready to stop guessing and start seeing what your body actually can do, go grab the guide. The link's in the show notes, or you can just DM me on Instagram, Break Free, and I'll send it to you. If this episode hit home, I would love it if you would take 30 seconds to just rate and review the show. Honestly, that's how more midlife moms find this podcast, and how we keep spreading the message that you don't have to hustle harder to feel better. All right, friend, next week we are digging into something I know is driving you crazy. You're eating better, you're moving more, and the scale, it's not moving. But here's the thing. What if your body's changing in ways that the scale can't measure? So, in next week's episode, I'm going to share a fat loss strategy, what that looks like in midlife, how to measure progress without obsessing over a number, and what to track instead so that you know that what you're doing is working. You won't want to miss it. Hit follow so don't forget, and I will see you here next week.